In the bustling modern world, stories of resilience and redemption hold a unique power to captivate and inspire. Today, we unravel the tale of a young boy abandoned in the most heart-wrenching circumstances, left on a desolate road, alone and wheelchair-bound by his own father, a wealthy businessman. What seemed like the end of his journey turned out to be the beginning of an incredible transformation. This story is more than just about abandonment. It's about hope, second chances, and the strength of the human spirit to overcome even the darkest moments. As viewers, we often find ourselves drawn to tales that challenge our understanding of love, family, and success. What happens when a parent, consumed by societal expectations and personal ambitions, chooses to discard their child due to perceived imperfections? And how can that same child, against all odds, rise above their circumstances to forge a path of greatness? In this video, we delve deep into the journey of Thomas Parker, the abandoned son who found not only a new family but also a new purpose. From the chilling moment of his father's betrayal to his triumphant rise as a symbol of resilience, this story will grip your heart and leave you pondering the true meaning of unconditional love. But that's not all. This video isn't just about recounting events. We'll also explore the lessons hidden within Thomas's journey and add fresh insights, examples, and opinions to connect with you on a deeper level. Whether you're a parent, a dreamer, or someone seeking motivation, this story will resonate in ways you never expected. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to appreciate the community we're building together. If this story inspires you, please like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us share more stories like this with the world. And with that, let's begin Thomas's remarkable journey. Imagine being abandoned by the very person who gave you life, left alone on a desolate road with no one in sight, no hope to hold on to, and a wheelchair as your only companion. For most people, this moment would be the breaking point, a place where despair takes over, and life seems to stop. But for Thomas Parker, this was the start of an extraordinary journey. The story begins on a crisp autumn morning, the kind of day where the air carries the scent of fallen leaves and distant possibilities. Thomas's father, a man known for his towering success in the business world, had always been a figure of admiration in the eyes of society. But behind the polished exterior of wealth and influence lay a man consumed by the pressures of perfectionism. To him, Thomas wasn't just a son. He was a challenge, a reminder of imperfection in a world where success meant everything. Born with a physical disability that confined him to a wheelchair, Thomas represented what his father saw as a flaw in an otherwise flawless image. On that fateful morning, Thomas's father made a choice that would shatter any remnants of trust and love between them. Without warning, he drove Thomas to an unfamiliar road, placed him by the side, and left him there. No explanations, no goodbyes, just the sound of tires fading into the distance. Alone and vulnerable, Thomas sat in silence, his mind swirling with questions that had no answers. But life, as it often does, had other plans. What could have been the end for Thomas was, in fact, the beginning of something extraordinary. Just as despair began to settle in, a kind-hearted passerby, a woman named Grace, noticed Thomas on the side of the road. Grace was no stranger to hardship herself, having grown up in foster care and experienced the pain of abandonment. Perhaps it was this shared sense of loss that compelled her to stop and help. Grace didn't just rescue Thomas from the physical isolation of that road. She became the anchor he so desperately needed. Taking him under her wing, she introduced him to a world where limitations didn't define a person's worth. With Grace's guidance, Thomas discovered his talent for storytelling and public speaking, skills that would later become the foundation of his success. As Thomas began to rebuild his life, the challenges he faced were far from over. The scars of abandonment and the physical limitations of his disability remained constant companions. Yet, instead of allowing these obstacles to define him, Thomas turned them into fuel for his determination. He began sharing his story with others, starting small with local community events and eventually reaching global platforms. His message was simple yet powerful. Your circumstances don't define your potential. What you do with your challenges does. But how did Thomas transition from a scared, abandoned boy to a symbol of resilience admired by millions? That transformation didn't happen overnight, nor was it the result of sheer luck. It was a combination of pivotal moments, unwavering support, and an inner strength that refused to be extinguished. In this video, we'll explore the key turning points in Thomas's journey, the moments that tested his resolve, the people who shaped his path, and the decisions that set him on the course to greatness. From his first public speaking event, where he shared his story of abandonment, to the day he founded a global foundation for children with disabilities, every step of Thomas's journey is a testament to the power of resilience. This is where the real story begins. As we dive deeper into Thomas's life, we'll uncover the emotional highs and lows that make his journey so relatable. We'll examine how the kindness of strangers can change the trajectory of a life, how personal pain can become a source of inspiration, and how even the most broken relationships can hold lessons for us all. If you've ever felt like life has dealt you an unfair hand, Thomas's story will remind you that every setback is an opportunity in disguise. His life is proof that even in the darkest moments, there's a light waiting to be found. You just have to be willing to look for it. Stay with us as we unravel the rest of Thomas's remarkable journey, from the heartbreak of abandonment to the triumph of finding purpose. This story is one you won't want to miss. Let's continue. Thomas Parker's story is filled with moments that challenge the boundaries of human endurance, willpower, and emotional resilience. From the physical barriers posed by his disability to the emotional scars of abandonment, every chapter of his life is marked by struggles that are both deeply personal and universally relatable. Let's delve into some of the most significant challenges he faced and how they shaped the man he would become. 1. The pain of rejection. The moment Thomas's father left him by the side of the road was more than an act of physical abandonment. It was a rejection of his very existence. This was no ordinary father-son conflict. It was a declaration that Thomas, in his father's eyes, was not enough. The weight of this rejection was unbearable for a young boy who had spent his entire life seeking approval and love from the very person who should have given it unconditionally. For weeks, Thomas struggled to come to terms with what had happened. He questioned his worth, his place in the world, and whether he could ever trust anyone again. The emotional toll was so severe that he began to isolate himself, even from those who wanted to help. Nights were the hardest, as the silence brought back memories of his father's cold departure. The pain was a constant companion, whispering doubts into his mind and making every step toward recovery feel impossible. 2. The struggle with physical limitations. Living with a disability is a battle that extends beyond the physical. For Thomas, simple tasks that others took for granted, climbing stairs, reaching for objects, or even navigating public spaces, became daily reminders of his limitations. But the real challenge lay in the way society treated him. From stares filled with pity to outright discrimination, Thomas often felt like the world saw him as less capable, less deserving, and less human. He remembered being turned away from a job interview, not because he lacked qualifications, but because the office wasn't wheelchair accessible. These moments of exclusion weren't just frustrating. They were a reminder that he would have to work twice as hard to prove his worth in a world that wasn't built for people like him. 3. Financial hardships. After being taken in by grace, Thomas was introduced to a world of kindness and compassion. But even grace couldn't shield him from the harsh realities of life. As a foster care survivor herself, she struggled to make ends meet, and her modest income was stretched thin as she cared for Thomas. There were days when they had to choose between paying rent and buying groceries, nights when they sat in the dark because the electricity had been cut off. Despite these hardships, Grace never let Thomas feel like a burden. Yet, Thomas couldn't help but carry the guilt of knowing that his needs added to her struggles. It was during these times that he resolved to one day give back to Grace and others like her, who had shown him kindness when he had nothing to offer in return. 4. Facing bullying and social isolation. Growing up with a disability often made Thomas a target for bullies. At school, he endured cruel taunts, whispered jokes, and even physical pranks. His classmates didn't see the boy behind the wheelchair. They only saw someone different, someone they could mock to feel superior. One incident stood out in particular. During a school assembly, A group of students thought it would be funny to tamper with the brakes on his wheelchair. When Thomas tried to move, the chair spun uncontrollably, causing him to fall in front of everyone. The room erupted in laughter, and while the teachers quickly intervened, the damage was done. The humiliation of that moment stayed with him for years, fueling a deep sense of insecurity. For a long time, Thomas avoided social interactions, convinced that people would always see his disability before they saw him. The loneliness was suffocating, but it also became the breeding ground for his most profound personal growth. 5. The challenge of forgiveness. Perhaps the most difficult struggle Thomas faced was learning to forgive his father. The wounds of abandonment ran deep, and for years, Thomas carried a burning anger toward the man who had left him behind. But as he began to share his story with others, Thomas realized that holding on to anger was like carrying a weight that only slowed him down. He decided to confront his pain head-on, seeking closure not for his father's sake, but for his own. Through therapy and reflection, Thomas began to understand that forgiveness didn't mean excusing what his father had done. It meant freeing himself from the power of that pain. This process was neither quick nor easy, but it was one of the most transformative experiences of his life. 6. The pressure of public expectations. As Thomas's story gained attention and he began to rise as a motivational speaker, a new challenge emerged: the pressure to always be inspiring. People saw him as a symbol of resilience and strength. But Thomas was still human. He had bad days, moments of doubt, and times when he felt like giving up. There were nights when he lay awake wondering if he was living up to the expectations people had of him. Could he continue to inspire others when he sometimes struggled to inspire himself? This internal battle became one of the most significant struggles of his public life. 7. Building a legacy despite the odds. Thomas's ultimate goal was to create a foundation that would support children with disabilities, offering them the resources and opportunities he had so desperately needed as a child. But turning this dream into a reality came with its own set of challenges. Raising funds, gaining public trust, and navigating bureaucratic red tape tested Thomas's patience and resolve. There were countless setbacks, from failed grant applications to partnerships that fell through at the last minute. Yet, Thomas refused to give up. He poured every ounce of energy into his vision, often working late into the night to ensure the foundation's success. Through each of these struggles, Thomas learned valuable lessons that shaped his perspective on life. He discovered the strength that comes from vulnerability, the power of community, and the importance of perseverance. His journey was far from easy, but it was these very challenges that made his story so compelling and his message so impactful. In the next section, we'll explore how Thomas turned these struggles into stepping stones for success, building a life that not only defied the odds but inspired millions around the world. Stay tuned. The Martinez family played an extraordinary role in Thomas Parker's life, becoming the foundation of his recovery, growth, and ultimate success. From the moment they welcomed him into their home, the Martinez family showed Thomas that compassion, love, and unwavering support could transform even the most broken of lives. 1. The moment of rescue. It was Grace Martinez who first found Thomas on the side of the road after his father abandoned him. Grace, a kind-hearted woman with a history of overcoming struggles herself, saw more than just a helpless boy in a wheelchair. She saw potential, a boy who deserved a chance at life, no matter how bleak his circumstances appeared. Without hesitation, Grace took Thomas into her care. She lived modestly, but her heart was anything but small. Grace's decision to take Thomas in was not driven by pity. It was driven by an unshakable belief in the power of kindness and the responsibility to act when others turn away. Thomas would later reflect on this moment as the turning point in his life. Grace's decision to stop, to care, and to act gave him something he had never experienced before: hope. 2. Creating a stable environment. The Martinez household was modest but filled with warmth, laughter, and a sense of belonging that Thomas had never known. Grace and her 2 children, Maria and Diego, treated Thomas as though he had always been a part of their family. Maria, a teenager with a passion for art, often sat with Thomas during her drawing sessions, encouraging him to express himself through creativity. She would say, Art doesn't need perfect hands, it needs a pure heart, a sentiment that helped Thomas embrace his own unique abilities. Diego, who was closer to Thomas's age, became the brother Thomas had always wished for. He taught Thomas how to play video games, adapted to his physical limitations, and included him in every activity. Diego's unwavering friendship gave Thomas the confidence to face the world again. Grace ensured that Thomas had everything he needed, not just physically but emotionally. She worked tirelessly to provide for him, from securing a wheelchair that suited his needs to finding therapy sessions to help him process his trauma. Her constant support created a stable foundation that allowed Thomas to begin healing. 3. Teaching life skills and independence. One of the most significant contributions the Martinez family made was teaching Thomas how to navigate life independently. Grace understood that true love and care didn't mean sheltering Thomas from the world. It meant preparing him to face it on his own terms. Grace worked closely with him to develop practical life skills, from managing his finances to cooking meals. She encouraged him to challenge himself and praised every milestone he achieved, no matter how small. There were moments when Thomas felt frustrated, particularly when tasks took longer due to his physical limitations. But Grace's patience and encouragement were unwavering. Every step forward, no matter how slow, is still progress, she would remind him. This emphasis on independence helped Thomas rebuild his confidence and shattered the notion that he was incapable of living a full life. 4. Fostering emotional healing. Beyond the practical support, the Martinez family played a critical role in Thomas's emotional recovery. Grace, in particular, was attuned to Thomas's need to process his feelings of abandonment and rejection. She often stayed up late, sitting with Thomas at the kitchen table, listening as he poured out his fears and anger. Grace never tried to minimize his pain or offer empty reassurances. Instead, she validated his feelings while guiding him toward finding meaning and purpose in his experiences. One evening, during one of their late-night talks, Grace shared her own story of overcoming hardship. She had grown up in the foster system and knew what it felt like to be discarded and overlooked. Her story resonated deeply with Thomas, showing him that even the darkest past could be transformed into a brighter future. Maria and Diego also contributed to Thomas's emotional growth. Maria's artwork often reflected themes of resilience and hope, which inspired Thomas to see beauty in his struggles. Diego, on the other hand, taught Thomas the value of humor and playfulness, often diffusing tense moments with his quick wit. Together, the Martinez family created an environment where Thomas felt safe to confront his pain, heal, and rediscover his sense of self-worth. 5. Encouraging education and ambition. The Martinez family believed in the transformative power of education and encouraged Thomas to pursue his dreams, no matter how ambitious they seemed. Grace enrolled Thomas in a school that not only accommodated his physical needs, but also challenged him academically. At first, Thomas was hesitant. Years of bullying and exclusion had left him doubtful of his abilities. But Grace's faith in him never wavered. She worked closely with his teachers to ensure he had the resources he needed and celebrated every academic achievement, no matter how small. Over time, Thomas began to excel. He developed a love for writing, often using it as a tool to process his emotions and share his experiences. Grace nurtured this passion, encouraging him to participate in writing competitions and eventually apply for college. It was through the Martinez family's support that Thomas discovered his dream of becoming a motivational speaker and advocate for others with disabilities. They not only gave him the tools to succeed, but also the confidence to believe that his voice mattered. 6. A lifelong bond. Even as Thomas grew older and began to make a name for himself, the Martinez family remained his anchor. Their bond went beyond the roles of caregiver and dependent. They became a true family. Grace attended every one of Thomas's speaking engagements, sitting proudly in the front row. Maria and Diego, now adults, continued to support Thomas in their own ways. Maria by designing promotional materials for his foundation, and Diego by managing its digital presence. Thomas often credited the Martinez family for saving his life, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Their love and support turned a boy who had been abandoned on the side of the road into a man who would inspire millions. The Martinez family's role in Thomas's journey serves as a powerful reminder of the impact that compassion, patience, and unwavering support can have on a person's life. In the next section, we'll explore how Thomas turned the lessons he learned from the Martinez family into a mission to help others facing similar struggles. In Thomas Parker's journey, the moments of connection, where he shared his story and inspired others, played a crucial role in his growth. These opportunities not only helped him develop, but also fostered long-lasting relationships and profound impacts within the community. Through music, performances, personal encounters, and social initiatives, Thomas seized every chance to connect and inspire those around him. One of the pivotal moments early in Thomas's journey was when he participated in an open mic night at a local cafe. Though nervous, the encouragement from Maria and Diego gave him the courage to step on stage. He performed an original song titled Unspoken Words, which told the story of transitioning from feelings of invisibility to finding one's voice. The audience listened in silence, and after the song ended, many approached him to share their stories. That evening was not just about recognition of his talent, but also about creating a deep bond between Thomas and the community, proving that music could transcend all boundaries. As his confidence grew, Thomas continued to participate in community events organized by Grace Martinez. These events were not just platforms for him to showcase his talent, but also opportunities to spread messages of hope and mental strength. One memorable event was a fundraising gathering for a local rehabilitation center. Thomas performed his song, Broken Roads, and shared the story behind it, only to receive words of encouragement and stories from those in attendance. Such performances made Thomas realize that music could provide comfort and hope to those facing difficulties. Beyond live performances, Thomas built a strong community through social media. He shared not just flawless performances, but also moments of vulnerability, like struggling to master a new chord or revising lyrics. This authenticity made his followers feel understood and connected. One fan wrote, "Your music has been a source of strength during my toughest days. Thank you for showing me that no matter how hard life gets, there's always a way to keep going." Along with his music, Thomas organized workshops for young musicians, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds. One of his most memorable students was Sophia, a young girl with a stutter, which made her hesitant to sing in front of others. However, after participating in Thomas's workshops, she found the confidence to perform her own song at the course's final showcase. Sophia's performance received a thunderous applause, and Thomas shared that it was one of the happiest moments in his career. In addition to performances and workshops, Thomas joined collaborative music projects, one of which was with Lillian Nguyen, a singer who is blind. Together, they wrote a song called Shadows and Light, about the struggles they faced in life, but also about celebrating inner strength. The music video for this song went viral on social media, becoming a call for fairness in the music industry and inspiring other disabled artists. Another unforgettable moment came after a charity concert when Thomas met a fan named Alex, a young boy in a wheelchair after a spinal injury. Alex's mother shared how Thomas's music helped her son through the toughest stages of recovery. Thomas took the time to speak with Alex, even letting him try playing his guitar. Before leaving, Thomas wrote a personal message to Alex. "Your story inspires me just as much as mine inspires you. Keep moving forward. You are unstoppable." Thomas also continued to use his music as a tool for social change. His song, Open the Doors, became an anthem for the disability rights movement. This song not only called for acceptance and recognition, but also became widely distributed, helping to raise awareness and push for changes within the community, such as increasing resources for accessibility initiatives. As Thomas's music reached a global audience, he had the chance to perform at international events, from a disability rights conference in London to a cultural festival in Tokyo. Each performance became an opportunity for Thomas to share his message with the world and prove that no matter how challenging life gets, anyone can make a difference. These moments of connection not only propelled Thomas's growth, but also sparked a wave of inspiration throughout the community. Thomas Parker's journey reached a defining moment when the crossroads of his past struggles and newfound potential collided. It was a climactic turn that would change not only the trajectory of his career, but also the way he viewed his own abilities and the impact he could have on others. This turning point came after months of hard work, self-reflection, and continuous performances that brought him closer to his goal of becoming a well-respected artist. The defining moment arrived during a national music competition that attracted talent from all corners of the country. Thomas had hesitated at first. He didn't consider himself a traditional performer in the classical sense. His songs, often raw and filled with personal reflections, were not the polished commercial hits expected at such prestigious events. However, Maria encouraged him to take the leap. "This is your moment, Thomas. Show them who you really are," she said, offering the kind of support only a true friend could. Thomas hesitated, but when he looked at the faces of those who believed in him, he couldn't ignore the weight of their faith. He submitted his application and prepared for the audition with everything he had. It was a daunting task, learning new songs, perfecting his craft, and honing his presentation. But through every late-night practice and every conversation with mentors like Maria and Diego, Thomas felt his music becoming sharper, more refined, and more powerful. The night of the audition arrived, and the tension in the air was palpable. Performers from across the country filled the venue, each bringing their unique style, but none more vulnerable than Thomas. His song choice for the competition was a personal one, "Echoes of Silence," a piece that described the long battle he had fought against the whispers of doubt that had haunted him for years. The lyrics told of overcoming silence, finding one's voice, and pushing through the barriers of self-doubt. As Thomas took the stage under the bright lights, his heart raced, and his hands trembled slightly, gripping the microphone. The crowd, a mix of industry professionals and other aspiring musicians, was silent, waiting. The weight of expectations loomed over him. But this was his moment, not just to showcase his music, but to prove to himself that he was worthy. The first few chords of his guitar rang through the venue. His voice, shaky at first, gained strength as he settled into the song. It wasn't perfect, but it was authentic. Each note echoed with vulnerability, and every word seemed to pull the audience into his world. He was no longer just a participant in a competition. He was a storyteller sharing his soul with every strum of the guitar. By the time Thomas reached the bridge of the song, a turning point in both the melody and the message, something shifted in the room. The judges, who had sat silently through numerous performances before, leaned forward in their seats. The audience, which had once seemed distant, now leaned in closer. It was as though his music had created a bridge between him and them, one built on authenticity, courage, and connection. When the final notes played and the room fell silent, Thomas stood still, waiting for the feedback. The judges were visibly moved, but the true shock came when one of them, an industry veteran, stood up and applauded. "Thomas, what you've shared tonight isn't just music, it's a message. You've taken your pain, your struggles, and transformed them into something powerful. The world needs more of this kind of vulnerability." This moment, standing on that stage, hearing the applause, and receiving such profound recognition, was a turning point not only for Thomas's career, but for his sense of self. He realized that he didn't need to fit the mold of a commercial musician to be successful. He didn't need to hide behind a persona or conform to expectations. His true power came from embracing his journey, his struggles, and the authentic sound that came with it. Thomas's performance became the highlight of the competition, and though he didn't win first place, the exposure he gained from the event was transformative. It marked the beginning of a series of opportunities, collaborations, and a broader platform for his music. More importantly, it solidified his belief in the power of vulnerability and authenticity, both on and off the stage. As Thomas stood on the precipice of his new reality, it became clear that the journey he had embarked on had shaped him in ways he had never imagined. His music had always been a reflection of his inner turmoil, his struggles, and his growth. But now it was a beacon for others who felt silenced by their own challenges. The climactic turn he experienced in the national competition was not just a career-defining moment. but a lesson in perseverance, self-acceptance, and the profound power of authenticity. Throughout his journey, Thomas learned that true success is not measured by accolades or external recognition, but by the connection we forge with others through our vulnerability. In a world where perfection is often idolized, he realized that there is immense strength in being raw, honest, and imperfect. His music became more than just a career. It became a means of healing, both for himself and for the people who listened. One of the most powerful lessons Thomas learned was that there is no linear path to success. He had spent years doubting himself, constantly measuring his worth against others, believing that his unconventional style might hold him back. But as he grew as an artist, he discovered that success is not about fitting into a predetermined mold. It's about embracing the journey and trusting the process. Every setback, every failure, and every moment of self-doubt had brought him to this point. Without those struggles, he wouldn't have had the depth or the authenticity that made his music resonate with so many. Another key lesson Thomas absorbed was the importance of surrounding himself with a supportive community. The encouragement of people like Maria and Diego, who had always believed in his potential, helped him push through moments of uncertainty. Their unwavering faith in his talent reminded him that growth often requires not just self-belief, but the belief of others who are willing to support you, even when you don't see your own potential. The power of mentorship, friendship, and collaboration cannot be underestimated in any creative pursuit. Perhaps the most profound realization was the understanding that vulnerability is not a weakness but a source of power. By sharing his struggles through his music, Thomas was able to connect with others in a way that transcended superficiality. He tapped into an emotional resonance that allowed people to feel seen, heard, and understood. His music became a shared experience, and through it, he found not just success but purpose. As he continued to grow in his career, Thomas began to view every challenge as an opportunity for deeper connection, both with his audience and with himself. He stopped seeing obstacles as failures and started seeing them as lessons in resilience and personal growth. The scars from his past no longer felt like burdens to bear, but rather reminders of his strength and resilience. They were an integral part of who he had become: a musician, a person, and a storyteller. In conclusion, Thomas Parker's story is one of transformation, a journey from self-doubt to self-empowerment, from silence to a resonating voice. The lessons he learned along the way are universal. Success is not about conforming to societal expectations, but about embracing your authentic self and sharing that with the world. Vulnerability is not a liability, but a strength, and the support of others can be the catalyst for extraordinary growth. For anyone navigating the complexities of their own journey, Thomas's story serves as a powerful reminder that the struggles we face are not roadblocks, but stepping stones that shape who we are. It's through perseverance, self-belief, and the willingness to be vulnerable that we can truly transform our lives and impact the world around us. The world doesn't need another perfect performance. It needs the truth that only each of us can offer in our unique way.